Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 5:30, and I will call this regular meeting of the Burnsville City Council to order. It is our tradition to stand for a moment of silence, and then we invite you to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Today, it is a very special day because we have the Girl Scouts here, and it is the Spirit Week for the Girl Scouts, and I would like for them to come up front and to lead us to stand first for a moment of silence, and then lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. So we will all stand for a moment of silence, and the flag is over to your right, over there. Okay? So let's all be silent for a moment before we say the pledge. Okay, you can start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, girls. You can take a seat. Nice job. And now we have some announcements, and we have two proclamations. Our announcements have to do with all of our upcoming meetings. Council meetings are scheduled for Tuesday, October 8th at 5:30 p.m. and Tuesday, October 22nd at 5:30 p.m. We have work sessions also scheduled Tuesday, October 15th at 5:30 p.m. and Tuesday, October 29th at 5:30 p.m. We're in the midst of budgets. We're always in budgets, but this is the run-up to our budget adoption in December. So here's the schedule for our budget. Today, we will be adopting the maximum tax levy, and then we will have a budget work session on Tuesday, October 29th at 5:30 p.m., another budget work session on Tuesday, November 12th at 5:30 p.m., and then we will adopt the tax levy and the budget on December 3rd at 6 p.m. And everyone is invited to join us at our council meetings if you so desire, or you can watch us on TV as well. So we have two proclamations. One is for the Girl Scout Spirit Week proclamation, and the other is for Manufacturing Week. And I'm going to do it from that side. So I'm going to first do the Manufacturers Week proclamation, because when we do the Girl Scouts, then we would like everybody, all the girls, to come up and get the proclamation, okay? And then if you want to take pictures, that would be wonderful also. Great, so we'll do Manufacturing Week, October 1st through the 7th, 2019. Whereas manufacturing is a dynamic and robust industry, crucial to the health and strength of Minnesota's diverse economy. And whereas manufacturing added $52.7 billion to Minnesota's economy in 2018, representing the second largest contribution, 14%, to the state's gross domestic product by any industry. And whereas workers took home $21.6 billion in wages from Minnesota manufacturing jobs in 2018, the second largest total payroll among private sector industries. And whereas manufactured exports brought $21 billion into the Minnesota economy in 2018, and whereas manufacturing in Minnesota pays an average annual wage of $67,098, which is 15% higher than the state's overall average wage. And whereas manufacturing provides 322,000 highly skilled, well-paying jobs, which significantly contribute to Minnesota's high standard of living and economic vitality. Now, therefore, I, Elizabeth Couts, Mayor of the City of Burnsville, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim October 1st to October 7th, 2019 as Manufacturing Week. proclaimed this 17th day of September 2019. And now, the proclamation for a Girl Scout Spirit Week 2019. Whereas since 1912, Girl Scouting has fueled the leadership pipeline in our communities by preparing and inspiring millions of girls and women to be active leaders with the highest ideals of character, conduct, and patriotism. And whereas throughout its long and distinguished history, Girl Scouts has been the preeminent leadership development organization for girls, where they can unleash their potential to be leaders our world needs both now and in the future. Girl Scouts' expertise and timeless programming offers every girl a chance to practice a lifetime of leadership in a girl-led, girl-focused, and all-girl environment. And whereas through Girl Scouting, girls gain courage, confidence, and character to make their local communities and the world a better place. Girls get exposure to new experiences in science, technology, engineering, and math, the outdoors, and entrepreneurship through Girl Scouts' unique programs. And whereas 28,000 local Girl Scout members and 9,000 volunteers will be celebrating 107 years of this American tradition and its contributions to the community. Now, therefore, I, Elizabeth Couts, Mayor of the City of Burnsville, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby applaud the commitment Girl Scouting has made to America's girls and proudly proclaim the week of September 16th through the 22nd, 2019 to be Girl Scout Spirit Week, proclaimed on this 17th day of September 2019. All right, girls, would you come up and receive the proclamation? Okay, now what we're also going to do, girls, we're all going to stand over there and take a picture. I think everybody, your moms and everybody. So you want to turn around so they can all see your pretty faces? Okay. But we're going to go over here, Rick, so everybody, so we can be with the City Council. Who's going to hold the proclamation? Who's receiving the proclamation? Yeah. I love it. That's confidence and courage. And you speak a little with the proclamation. Wherever you want to stand, come here. All right. Thank you, girls. Have a wonderful week celebrating being a Girl Scout. The next item on the agenda is citizens' comments. This is the opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the council on a item that is not on the printed agenda and not an application form that will be coming before us at a future date. Does anyone want to address the council? Anyone? Seeing no one, we will move on. The next is additions to the final agenda, and this is for emergency items only. Ms. Mescali, are there any emergency items to be added to the agenda?
There are not, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Members of the council? Very good. We are at the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a group of items that's considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. However, an item on a consent agenda can be removed for a separate discussion and vote. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes an item on the consent agenda to be removed for a separate discussion and vote? Anyone who wishes an item to be removed? Ms. Mascali?
No, Madam Mayor.
Members of the council? May I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda, please?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. We are at item on the regular agenda, and the first item is a public hearing. This is 5A, and this is to approve off-sale liquor license for Star World Liquor LLC, doing business as Blue Max Liquors, located at 14640 10th Avenue. And our city clerk, Michelle Collins, is presenting. Ms. Collins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. This is an application for a new owner for the Blue Max Liquors and Star World Liquor, as you said. An investigation was conducted on the principals involved. Nothing was found to deny the application. This approval tonight is conditional upon receiving all state approvals. And this is a public hearing. I stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Collins? Okay, thank you. I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to address the council on this issue? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Council, your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Keeley makes the motion, second by Councilmember Workman.
May I have discussion?
Yes, and then discussion. Ms. Schultz.
So on these public hearings, especially where there is a public hearing simply because there is a new manager, this is something that I'm hoping we will be taking a look at for the future to see if this is an unnecessary layer of what we're doing for compliance. It's not like city council interviews these managers, knows who they are, anything like that. It's very pro forma, so it's questionable as to if we would do this or continue to do this and how this interacts with state licensing and the role of city government. So I just wanted to interject there that this is something that we are hopefully, as a council and our city manager and staff, will be looking at for the future.
Okay, and Mr. Jamnik, our attorney, will also take a look at it and see what state statute has to say about this. Okay, if there is nothing else, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. The next is also a public hearing, and this is to approve a wine 3.2% on-sale liquor license for Taco John Mexican Grill LLC, doing business as Taco John Mexican Grill. This is located at 14635 County Road 11. And Ms. Collins?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This application is for a new, what we refer to as a wine and beer license for a new restaurant on County Road 11. They're next to the Devani's, in the Devani's strip mall location, Taco John Mexican Grill. All the investigations have been concluded on the principals involved. Nothing has been found to deny the license. This license is also conditional upon any state approvals that are required. This is a public hearing. I stand for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Collins? Okay, this is a public hearing. I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Close the public hearing. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you. The next item is an application of Dean and Barbara Johnson Holdings for a plan unit development amendment for exterior materials and landscaping deviations located at 1404 County Road 42 West, to adopt the ordinance and findings of fact. Ms. Arnold, our planner, is presenting. Ms. Arnold, good evening.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, members of the council. So this subject site, it's zoned B3 Plan Unit Development. The proposed Plan Unit Development Amendment is related to the use of an unimpregnated concrete masonry unit, as well as some landscaping deviations related to the installation of trees. At the September 9th Planning Commission meeting, the commission was comfortable with the deviation related to landscaping due to the site's limited space for mature trees as they develop and its topography. The commission's recommendation did differ from staff related to the exterior materials request. The applicant and the commission did discuss the facade of the building, and they reached a compromise to prime and paint the concrete masonry unit and continue the stone veneer along the base of the building, as is on the front. The findings of fact within your packet and the recommendation here do reflect the commission's majority recommendation of approval of the plan unit development amendment with the language of condition 1 as discussed by the applicant and the planning commission at their meeting. Thank you.
Okay, any questions of Ms. Arnold? It appears that all has been reconciled,
Yes,
so there are no issues.
there are no issues.
Okay. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Move to approve. Second.
Councilmember Gustafson makes the motion, second by Councilmember Keeley. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Good luck. The next item is a public hearing, and this is a resolution to adopt the first half of the 2019 Code Enforcement Assessment. Mr. Chris Forsland, our Licensing and Code Enforcement Coordinator, is presenting. Mr. Forsland, welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. This is the public hearing for the first half 2019 Code Enforcement Assessments, special assessments. These fees are typically those that involve charges that the city has incurred for mowing properties, for property maintenance items, things along that line. This is a cost recovery program and is intended to recover those costs that the city incurs to perform these services. This period is from January 1 to July 30th of 2019 and is included in this. Council adopted, when we send out notices, we send it out to the affected property owners through our notices of violation. They're giving at least 2 to 3 notices and strongly encouraged to contact us if they have any questions on anything. Council adopted this resolution declaring the costs and calling for this public hearing on August 5th, 2019. The notices of this hearing were sent to the affected property owners on August 23rd. And that detailed that if there's any unpaid fees for code violations, they had the right to object at that point. This notice also invited all property owners to an open house that we had on September 4th, 2019 to discuss their violations and any fees that had accrued up to this point. We had one person show up and we resolved one through the telephone. Tonight, any property owners wishing to object need to sign ahead of time and or they can waive their right to appeal. At the time of this submittal, I don't believe we received any formal objections, and I'm happy to say that this is my 13th time up here in front of the council for special assessments, and we have a total for this first half of the year of only $5,920 that we did not collect. And I'd really like to emphasize this was through a lot of extra effort by staff to work with residents, to talk them through these and to explain to them what the law requires. And I'd also like to say I believe it'd be a lot of extra effort by all the property owners understanding what the codes require and calling us in advance, which is exactly what we want to do. So happy with that.
So from Friday or Thursday, when we received the packet, it was 7,000, and you reconciled 2,000 of those between then and now.
Yes, as of 2 o'clock today, it was 6,255.
And then this evening, you said it was 5,000?
As of an hour ago.
Yeah. So one of the things that when we started this program, and I know how much it was, so could you tell everybody when we started this program way back, and it was because the neighborhoods were becoming very tired and depressed, and our real estate folks were not happy with the looks of the neighborhood, and we had some flight. So how much was that first assessment?
If I recall correctly, I want to say around 35,000. So we've come a long ways, and a lot of that is educating people again on what they need to do. And I think a lot of people have really taken that to heart, and I think the community looks a lot better from when we got here.
And I think one of the things that happened also is that a lot of the people did not know that we had a property maintenance ordinance. And once they found out, they complied.
They did.
And that continues to be the case.
Yeah.
Okay. Members of the council, Councilmember Keeley.
I also want to point out what really triggered this whole thing, because we were working with property owners for years. But we had a slumlord apartment owner that I believe was the real spark that lit this fire to put this department in place. And obviously it ended up having to be shut down and taken to court before they finally got out of their slumlord ways and cleaned their act up and made the place inhabitable and reopened eventually. But prior to that, I think we worked with everyone just the way you're doing today, and we got a lot of compliance. So I'm not so sure it was all about the neighborhoods and how they looked, and more about a really bad situation with an apartment complex.
Councilmember Schultz.
First of all, let me say that I appreciate the work that you and your department does. You are doing exactly what council has been directing you to do for a length of time now. And you've been doing it to the best of your abilities, and I absolutely know that you do work with our residents, and I do hear back on that. I will be voting abstain. The reason why I will be voting to abstain on this is because I believe with the history behind it, which Councilmember Keeley highlighted, which was, this was something that was created to target one very specific situation, and now has just been allowed to continue and ongoing. I'm hopeful that we as a council can come up with better direction and a different way to interact with our residents in the future, and to start going away from more of the proactive code enforcements, because we've been through the city. You guys have been very thorough. You've done an excellent job. And so I think we're at a point now where we can have different priorities. And so I'm very excited for that, and I am excited for the conversation that we as a council will be having about that. So I wanted to explain my vote in advance. Thank you very much.
Is there any other questions for Mr. Forsland? If not, members of the council, I need a motion. Oh, it is a public hearing. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, I was looking at a resolution. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to address the council on this item? Anyone who wishes to address the council on this item? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Move to approve. Second.
Councilmember Gustafson makes the motion, second by Councilmember Keeley. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Ford, and one abstention.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Forsland. And we are now on item 5E. And 5E is a resolution to establish the proposed budget, the 2020 proposed tax levy, and the authorizing cancellation of certain deferred tax levies. Mrs. Kelly Stry, our finance director, is presenting this evening, and she has been presenting since June. At least tonight you won't have 2.5 hours, so you can have your voice.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Tonight we have, we are about the midpoint of our budget process. As Madam Mayor referred to, we had a meeting last week, a council work session, where we discussed at length the options for the maximum tax that you will need to adopt tonight. You are required by law to adopt a maximum tax that goes on the preliminary property tax levies that property owners will receive from Dakota County in November. You may go down from that number, but you may not go up from that number through the rest of the budget process. So this process began in June, and it will be finalized in December when you adopt the final budget and CIP. Tonight you have three items to take care of tonight. The city levy, you have a resolution for the city levy. That also includes cancellation of some deferred tax levies. That's a kind of a technicality for Dakota County to set our debt taxes. And then also the Economic Development Authority will need to adopt the EDA levy, and then we'll return back to the city council meeting to approve the EDA levy as the city council. We always take a look at the city levy and the EDA levy together to be as transparent as possible, because you have control over both of those levies. So this year, we did some proposed changes between the city and EDA funding, which increases the city levy with an offsetting reduction in the EDA levy. So that is why you are seeing a higher amount in the city levy and a negative decrease in the EDA levy. In total, it is a $2.1 million change in the levy, which represents 6% of total levies last year. And as I mentioned, the first thing we'll do is the city resolution, and then moving on to the EDA meeting, and then city council resumes. So I stand for questions.
Any questions for Ms. Stride? Members of the council, I need a motion to adopt the resolution establishing the proposed budget, the 2020 proposed tax levy, and authorizing the cancellation of certain deferred tax levies.
Move to approve. Second with comment.
Yes, I have you. Councilmember Gustafson makes the motion, and did I hear a second?
Yes.
And second by Councilmember Keeley. We are at discussion. Councilmember Keeley.
We had our public airing of our after a 2.5-hour wonderful presentation, best budget presentation we've had since I've been on council. Thank you very much for that. This budget has got numbers that I have yet to ever see since I've sat at the dais related to a tax increase. The $2 million number is what we control. The percent is just what it is when you divide it into our total tax pie, as we refer to. And at 6%, it is not something that I certainly would have ever wanted, but there are extenuating circumstances that are all sort of coming together this year that would be near impossible to overcome unless we just flat out said, okay, we're going to cut this department and stop doing this as a city. And I think it's fair to say that over the last 10, 12 years, we have been a very, very fiscal prudent council. Not every year, but most years. In fact, going back to 2010, during the recession, we cut 20 full-time equivalent positions and cut $3.5 million out of our budget over a couple of years, and then another $1 million in a year before. A year after that, it was $4.5 million accrued over a couple of years. But and we really right-sized the city to focus on clean and safe, and we were very lean and mean, and we stayed that way. We stayed at the same level of employees for a long time, and I certainly was very proud of the work we did, because it certainly met my expectations and my goals to become a council member to run a fiscally prudent city. Then we come up to when we need more economic development staff. Like there's a lot of cranes in the air, as Councilmember Guston likes to say, and I too share that opinion. And a lot of inspections to do not for proactive property maintenance, but plumbing, electrical, building, et cetera, because we have so much building going on. So our economic development department, which was framed with a staffing structure to basically support almost no economic development, inspecting some remodels and a few things, suddenly got an onslaught of all these projects and got overwhelmed very quickly. So a little bit of overtime going on there now, but we need to fix that. And we need to adjust that in a couple different ways. But so that comes on, and then, of course, we chose to have a compensation study. And it hasn't been done in 25 years, and it needed to be done, but I don't think anyone knew that it was going to result in such a huge bump in our wages to catch people up. And so we really learned that through incredible fiscal prudence over the last 10 years or so, that sort of probably enhanced the gap that our staff was, throughout our entire city, was being paid compared to other cities. And so compensation studies shined a bright light on that gap, and we have to take care of it. So we're doing it over a few years. We did a little bit last year. We're doing a lot more this year, and it is something we have to do because we've put ourselves in a position where we don't have a choice. But it's not that these people didn't deserve that. They do. And we're certainly in a better time now than 10 years ago when we were very, very tight on budgets. And so we have that, and we have other cost drivers, normal, when people work hard and they do a good job, they expect an annual raise. They don't like to make the same money year after year and go backwards as inflation does grow a little bit and eat into their income, and health benefits aren't going down. So we all fight this in our private sector jobs, and the city has the same challenge. I will note something that I haven't heard this lately, but I want to make sure that everyone really hears this very clearly. This city many, many, many years ago went to more of a high deductible type of health plan, which reminds me of the 80s when I was working back in the 80s. It was all 80-20. There was no $10 copay, go to any doctor as much as you wanted. Those plans from many, many years ago got replaced in this city, and we were one of the first cities, I think, to do it with these major medical plans to mitigate the cost to the city, taxpayers, and to the employees, and I think that was the right move. But those costs continue to go up every year, just like any private sector group health plan. So those are the biggest driver of this. Then you add on the compensation study, you add on some additional investment in ED, and you add on some things that we need to fix in the city because some things are getting old. And you have a very large percent increase, one that I honestly never thought I'd ever even, be in a position to have to justify. But there are extenuating circumstances that are hitting us this year. So as much as I don't like signing off on and supporting a 6% levy increase, all the work that staff has done over the last year, and they've listened very closely to all of us on council and our ideas and our input, to be able to restructure some things like the loss of $500,000, although it's becoming a little less than that because the trash going to the dump is increasing. But losing $500,000 on a fairly short notice of tipping fees, host fees, definitely caused us to have to make a shift last year, and more shifts to get things in the right place, in the right enterprise fund, and funded by the franchise fee for our infrastructure, like our buildings, our facilities. I don't want to say infrastructure too loosely, facilities. I think is all the right moves, and it's all being done, and it's kind of coming all to head this year. So I do expect to see a better number, a lower number next year, and I expect to see an even lower number in the ensuing years as all this economic development comes to pay off and bring us some expanded tax base. And we're able to look at numbers more in the 3% or 4% range and work on that rather than dealing with what we had. So this is not an easy thing for me to do, but I'm going to support, as I second the motion, support, because I understand all the numbers, I understand where all the money is going, and I understand why it is going and why it is the number that it is. And so I think we're in the best interest of the city, taking care of the assets and doing the right thing for our employees. This is let's swallow this pill this year and move on. So with that, thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Yep, one of the things that you didn't mention, it's because we moved 1 point something from the decertification of the heart of the city, 1 point
Yes.
over to the general fund. So actually, in reality, it's less than 6%.
Yes.
The money is there. It's about 4%.
4.6 or something like that, right?
Yeah, and
Good point.
and so it really, but you made good points with regard to the things that we've been doing. We continue to work hard to deliver for our citizens what they expect of us, and to ensure that we keep their assets maintained and improved. And so this is what we're doing, and we say in our values that we treasure our employees, and we have not done a good job of doing that, and we are doing that now through the compensation study, and we are right-sizing our compensation for our people. And yes, you're correct. We have expenses that we do not have control over. They come to us and we need to make sure that we meet those expenses as well. So Councilmember Workman, so it's not 6, it's only a shift. Councilmember
Thank you.
Workman.
And thank you for your institutional knowledge on all of this. Maybe I'm asking or declaring a point of reference here that this vote is to set the max tax and that we're not actually voting on a finalized budget right now.
Correct.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's
And it-
December when we
Correct.
adopt the budget.
So I just wanted to clarify that because it was a very compelling statement by Councilmember Keeley, but it sounded like we were making the final budget vote this evening.
Sounded that serious, didn't it?
Yes, you did.
Okay,
Well,
So that's all I have.
okay, Councilmember Keeley.
thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one point. I am not ever going to give up the pursuit of driving down the cost of government. And I want to make this statement now because as we see the pie get bigger and these new tax revenues come in, for the last 13 years, I think I've seen 0.4 or 0.5. I don't think I've ever seen anything bigger than 0.5% of new money, meaning if we had a cost drivers for 4% on existing taxpayers and there was new money of 0.5%, it would be net 3.5% on existing taxpayers. When these projects hit the tax rolls, and I'll say again, please Dakota County, come up to the 2019 technology era and let's cut a year off of that 2-year lag. That's new money. And we levy a dollar amount. So if our levy is going to go up by X, but we get, Y and Z in, I want that money to go back to a reduction in the levy. I will not be looking for ways to spend that new revenue when it comes in. I will be looking for that new money to reduce existing taxpayers' burden. And so that's the return on investment that I'm looking at for a year like this. It's gonna come back in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, every year after that, actually, as long as these projects continue to come in. It will come back in a larger than 0.5%, hopefully something in the tune of 1.5 to 2 percentage points, a reduction on existing taxpayers. Thank you.
Councilmember Schultz?
We did have a thorough discussion of this at the work session. A few things I would like to point out, and I do think residents deserve an explanation, because this is one of our more important votes that we take. This vote and the budget vote are two of the most important, decisions that we make as city council members. And so residents do deserve not just to know what our vote is, but why we're voting the way that we're voting, so that they can make an evaluation. Is this the type of representation that they're looking for? My concern is that while we have a great credit rating, and I do not fault staff at all for their budgeting because they're doing, again, what we're asking them to do. None of that I have any fault with whatsoever. But I am looking into the future, and it's not just, you don't want to look at just this year, next year, and the next year. You want to look at what is the trajectory that we're on. And when we're looking at the trajectory that we're on with, some of those hard areas that take up the majority of the budget that really aren't going to change. And those things are, how much do you pay your staff and what are the benefits? And you alluded as well to the rising cost of benefits and those types of things. Maintaining our facilities and infrastructure, our core facilities, those types of things. That is all projected to continue to increase. So I have a question of sustainability, and is it sustainable to regularly have these types of levy increases? Is that something that we can just keep doing ad infinitum? And we've been doing it, and they are projected in the future that we will have future levy increases. This high, higher, and slightly lower. So we are seeing those projections that is what will be requested. And we are having this levy increase, proposed levy increase, at the same time that we will be proposing the quadrupling of our franchise fees, which is every person pays, whether you're a resident, a business, a nonprofit, that type of thing, and we're looking at quadrupling that. And if we weren't, it would be asking for an even higher property tax levy increase. At the same time, home values are going up. And staff has noted that it is expected that homes will have, on an average, a 5% increase in the valuation of their home. So that's all coming into it as well. So for these reasons, because I would like us to start having more discussions on sustainability of budget, and you know, these things are not easy conversations, and they're not fun, and they're rather painful. And we also need to hear from residents on what they're looking for from us as a city. What services do you think absolutely have to be provided? What infrastructure absolutely has to be there? What are your expectations? So that we can do that, and we can do it to the absolute best of our abilities. It is for that reason that I will be voting no.
Okay, very good. Are there any other comments? If not, members of the council, I need a motion. And it was made, by Councilmember Gustafson, second by Councilmember Keely. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
And the clerk has the division of the House. Thank you. I will now recess the Burnsville City Council meeting so the Economic Development Authority can convene.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
President Gustafson.
I call order the Economic Development Authority. Are there any additions to the final agenda? Please let the record show all commissioners are present. We move on to the consent agenda. I need a motion.
Motion to
Motion by
approve.
Commissioner Keely,
Second?
second by Commissioner Workman. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. On to our regular agenda. We have one thing on it, and it's the resolution authorizing the proposed levy of a special benefit levy pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 469.033, Subdivision 6, and approval of a proposed budget for fiscal year 2020. And Kelly Stride is our presenter as well. Thank you.
I don't have really anything to add, other than the total amount of this EDA levy would be $197,500, which is a decrease of $545,000.
Are there any questions? I would need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Keely,
Second.
second by Commissioner Couch. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
And it passes 4-1. We have nothing else on the agenda. There's no miscellaneous, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Keely, motion to adjourn. Commissioner Workman to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
And we go back to the city council, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Gustafson. I will now reconvene the Burnsville City Council meeting, and we are at 5G. 5G is the resolution to approve a proposed tax levy by the Burnsville Economic Development Authority for taxes payable 2020. This is the action that we ratify the actions of the EDA. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Keely makes a motion, second by Councilmember Gustafson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
And the clerk has the division of the House. Okay, thank you. Members of the council, there are no other items to come before us this evening, and a motion to adjourn is in
Motion to
order.
adjourn.
Second.
There is a motion to adjourn by Councilmember Keely, second by Councilmember Gustafson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Good night, and thank you for being with us.